As a young child, Andrea Surich was fascinated by live theater. But when she was ready to get into theater professionally, she was told the industry wasn't ready for women to do the jobs that she was interested in. Well, 40 years later, and Andrea has proven she can do pretty much whatever she puts her mind to. This is our ResourceStage conversation with Andrea Surich, General Manager of the Watermark Theater, Prince Edward Island. It has always been a pleasure talking to you, so I thought that it would be awesome if you and I could chat a little bit, and you could tell us a little bit about how you got into this crazy world of theater.
Well, I guess we'll start at the very beginning,
Okay.
like we did. My mother took me to see Pinocchio when I was about 10 or 11 at the University of Waterloo on their thrust stage. And it was enthralling. It was, I don't know that I knew that that's the world that I wanted to work in, but I certainly knew that that was a very cool place. And because we were in Kitchener, we were really close to Stratford. Right. And my parents would take us to Stratford. So I got to see some really amazing performances, which I have no idea how wonderful they were because I was young. But I know now, because I know the history there, that I saw some extraordinary work.
Right.
Yeah. So, by the time I was finishing high school, I knew that theater was what I wanted to do. I didn't know what it was that I wanted to do. And I went to the National Theatre School in Montreal and studied. They only had 3 programs: acting, design, and technical. So I took technical without knowing what that really meant at all.
Right.
And learned a lot.
Right.
And so that was a long time ago, but it was at a time when theater was just starting to really percolate across the country. Canada was finding itself and finding out that it needed culture and that it could develop culture. So suddenly we had playwrights, we had theaters, Tarragon, Passmarais, Factory. They all started almost at exactly the same time. A lot of other theaters. So there was a lot of work to be had once we came out of school. Interesting story for me, I think, or for history of women in theater. I was the only girl in my class.
Huh.
And when I graduated, I was told that the only thing I could do was stage management because I was a woman.
Wow. But
I was terrible stage manager. I was awful. But that's what I did. I got out of theater school and I stage managed. And I was bored. I hated the rehearsal hall. It was like watching paint dry for me. And but that's what I did.
So why did they say that? Why did they have that attitude at that point?
I think that they didn't really understand that that women could do other things. Even though, like, I did well in everything, except for sound, I have to be honest. But I think it was just a mindset that was going to be the reality. And so when I got out there, that's what I did. I got my equity card, but I really, really didn't like it very much. And I was always loving being in ASM because you were doing everything else backstage, right?
Sure,
and it was about solution finding and that kind of thing. So it wasn't really until I got to Toronto, really, and I was across the country. Long story, but anyway, I was in many places out west, and when I got back to Toronto, I kind of went, okay, I'm a terrible stage manager. I shouldn't be stage managing.
Right.
And I figured out that I wanted actually to be a technical director, that's actually what my brain was good at.
Right.
Which is solution finding, right? It's creative. It is technical, but it's also really collaborative. So it was perfect for my brain. And so, yeah, people took a chance on me in Toronto when I started TD.
So
Um,
if somebody doesn't know what a TD does, I mean, you just kind of gave some good examples of kind of the types of things you have to kind of wrap your head around. But what
yeah.
is the job? What does the job entail?
Oh boy, it's um, it's like the glue between the designer and the heads of departments
Right.
and the director. So it's
Right.
trying to realize what the designer wants, is trying to achieve, with an understanding of what the artistic bit that's driving those ideas, and also with an understanding of the practical and technical, not problems, but challenges
Right.
to realize that. Um, and so there's a lot of technical, there's a lot of artistic, creative bits to it, and there's a ton of collaborative people skills. Like
Right.
it's a really tricky role, I think. Um, and you're in between the production manager and everybody else too, so you're watching the money, but more you're the advocate for the designer
Right.
and trying to achieve that. And as we went along, safety became an issue, a big issue. And so safety
Right.
was a driving force in terms of achieving it. Money, obvious, always is. But yeah, really a creative job, which is, I think, why I loved it so much. Um,
It's interesting that you say that because well, for two things going through my head. So the one is that sometimes I think that people can look at something like, they look at the hierarchy of scale of a theater and they say, well, TD must be middle management sort of a thing. But that's not really the case because you're I mean, maybe you are, but you have to be kind of the coordinator between so many people from the sounds of things, right?
yeah.
You really, and I know that watching you do your job and that you really are trying to make everybody happy and try to have it happen on budget and on time, right? And try to work with all these different people. And I think it's interesting that the name of the job is technical director, but as you just pointed out, there is such a design and such an art that you have to try to make sure that if you're any good at your job, that you're upholding, right?
Yeah. I think I always think that you have to almost get yourself in the designer's brain
Right.
and uh, understand why they want the things that they want.
Hmm.
Because now I'm slightly different than your average bear in terms of technical direction, because I actually believe in having the conversation of looking at a design and trying to, uh, especially if the budgets or the time or the skill sets, it's all sorts of things that don't really jive with what we're looking at, that I'm willing to jump in and say, what if you took that away? Or is to try and find out what is the most important
Right.
to the designer, to the director.
Right.
Because sometimes within that conversation, which is a really rich, wonderful conversation, you find out that if you take it away, it becomes a stronger project.
Hmm.
So sometimes it's great to have the limitations of whatever it is, whether it's the size of the stage or anything,
Hmm.
that you have an opportunity to distill the project and the art to something that actually carries weight. And that was always my favorite part as a technical director. I just love trying to figure things out, but I'm not a huge technical mind. I'm not a lighting sound geek.
Right.
So I rely heavily on everybody that's around me and their skill sets. But that part, the discussion with the designer and finding a way to get it, I think that was my strength. I
Right.
also understand time really, really well.
Right.
So those are things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So you got back to Toronto
Yep.
and you started a job as a TD just immediately, or how did that work?
Let's see, I did a bit of freelancing because there
Okay.
was a lot of freelance work around. I was doing it at Toronto Free for Necessary Angel, a small small organization there, and then I got to be the assistant. I guess I would call myself technical assistant for Center Stage. Ivan Habel was the production manager at the time, and he took a chance on me. I don't know why. It was great. It was a hard season because we had a lockout. So I learned a lot about myself as a human being, dealing with that, and dealing with the union, who were definitely not used to working with a woman.
Right.
Right. So that was new.
Right.
And then I got to be full TD at Theatre Plus, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was a summer theater. It was in the St. Lawrence Center, in what's now the Jane Mallett Theater. And that was being full technical director with Local 58 was a big deal. It was a very big deal, and a real learning experience.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How long were you there for?
I did 1 year. I got pregnant at the beginning of my contract. Apparently that's what women do. And so I did the season. So poor Local 58, they were dealing with a woman and a pregnant one. And at the end of my contract, which it was a 9-month contract, I left to have my first daughter, Patterson. And I didn't know what it was going to be like to be a mother.
Right.
But they ended up, the new person who took my place didn't really work out, so I went back. And I ended up doing 3 seasons with them. And they were great. I mean, I learned so much, just, because that's what you do.
Yeah.
You're thrown into it and you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then what happened? Oh boy. I did Theatre Plus, and then I had my second child. I only left theater for a very short period of time each time that I had children. And then Young People's Theater was looking for a TD.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so I went there, and I spent. I had a 3-year pattern at that time. I did 3 years with Young People's Theater, and it was great. I mean, doing children's theater is totally amazing, and I know that you know that because of puppetry, but it's the most fulfilling theater that could ever be. And so I had a great time for 3 years, but there the challenges ended up being purely financial after a while, and that's less interesting.
Right.
So Bill and I went off for an adventure at Wolfville, Nova Scotia. And I was the founding art production manager. So it was my first time production managing, and Bill was my TD. And we started a festival from zero in a curling rink in a very short period of time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Probably the most
This is a part of the story I've never heard before.
It's definitely the most stressful theater I've ever done.
Wow, yeah.
Whatever else I've done, Bill would say, "Is it as bad as Wolfville?" Oh, no, it's not anywhere near that.
Oh, well, there you go.
But we did 3 shows in Rep. We did The Tempest and Flea in Her Ear and Cherry Orchard.
So sorry, so just so I understand, so you put this whole thing together in a short period of time with your husband as the TD, and so the two of you are throwing this together in a curling rink, and you decided to do it in Rep.
I didn't decide that. Okay. I didn't decide to do it in Rep, but that was the plan.
That was the deal. Okay.
Director wanted another Stratford in Wolfville.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Oh, he didn't really understand his Stratford took, well, how old it is now. I can't remember how old it is, but at that point it was probably 40 years old.
Yep.
And so it takes a long time to get to a place where you can be a Stratford.
Yeah.
But they wanted to do it. We arrived on April 1st, which probably should have told me something. And we opened everything. We opened 2 shows in Rep mid-June.
Wow.
And when we arrived, there was no stage.
Oh my goodness.
We were, I know this, you're going to edit all this stuff out, but we were focusing the lamps with a cable, hot, no dimmers. We had no dimmers yet.
Yep.
And because there was work going on all the time, we would unbag the lamp, plug it in, focus it at full, unplug it. As soon as it cooled off, put the
bag
plastic
back on.
bag back on.
Yep.
All the way. That's how we did it. And the schedule, I would change the schedule probably every hour during the day. The schedule would change based on where we were at, what we could do. It was madness. It was madness. But the shows were really magical.
Cool.
And yeah, I just got everybody in Toronto to do my work for me. Because, yeah, no, the stories of Wolfville, I could go on forever. You don't want me to go there, but it was again learning, right?
Yeah.
And working with a team that in that kind of pressure cooker, like everybody, they just want to quit.
Right.
Of course,
Right.
So every day I would have someone come up to me and say, I can't do this anymore. And I would have to talk them into staying. And that, I think that's where I learned my management chops.
Right.
Dealing with that.
Right.
Yeah. The festival only lasted 9 years. It's not in existence anymore, but it was pretty extraordinary, actually.
Yeah, that's neat. That's cool. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. And then I came back to Toronto to lick my wounds from that. And then the Grand Theatre came knocking.
Okay.
And so that's how we ended up coming west.
Right. And so about what year would that have been?
My first go around, so that was 97.
Okay.
Yep. And I came and was the production manager. Again, just with that little stint at Wolfville under my belt as a production manager.
Right.
Yeah, did 3 years. And then went to the Tom Patterson Theatre up in Stratford. And stayed in Stratford for 5 seasons. And I got moved.
The Tom Patterson building that no longer exists.
Exactly. Or is in a new phase.
It's in a very new phase, absolutely.
New beginning. New beginnings there. Yeah, I love the Patterson. But while I was there, they moved me to the festival stage.
Okay.
So I was in the big house. And up there, I was the first female TD.
Wow.
There are more now.
Yeah,
right?
there's actually, we were talking about this the other day, and there are 2 there currently.
Yeah.
But there's definitely been others. Yep.
Yep. So yeah, Alyssa was next after me.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was again a frontier, right? It's a frontier of. Also, I was. They didn't know me from, like, I didn't grow up in the Stratford,
right.
Right. Thing. So A, I was a woman, and B, a nobody as far as they were concerned.
And they didn't take you saying I came here with my mom when I was 12. That didn't give you any.
No, I never said that.
Oh, okay.
I never told them that.
Oh, okay. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but it was really cool. You know what was really neat about being up there as a technical director? There are other technical directors, and that was the first time and last time actually, that I've been in a situation where there were other people doing exactly the same job in different theaters,
right.
but in the festival, that you could talk to about what you were doing, how you were doing it, what was hard, what was easy, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was great. Like, I would wish that upon anybody to have that opportunity.
Yeah, it's a neat environment up there. There's no doubt.
It is. It's not easy because it's big, especially the festival stage. It's really big.
Right.
And I I I learned a lot. I had a lot of challenges. I did some really cool work, and I also had a really hard time sometimes because
Mm-hmm.
it was so big
Yeah.
and very political,
Yep.
and I'm not a political person, you know. So yeah, it was good though. I don't regret a minute that I spent up there,
Good.
but I knew that I would it would probably kill me if I stayed.
Yep.
You know, it's there's tech weeks and then there's tech months, and up there it's tech months
Yeah.
because you're doing in rep and you're doing so many shows, and they're all big, and full of big personalities, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it it's amazing. You're working with amazing people with incredible resources. You know, materials is my absolute favorite part of TDing, and up there, you know, I didn't have to think about what material I should use. I just used the one that was the right material, you
Right.
know.
Right. It's interesting. You know, they're we do a lot of work with them these days, obviously, and uh, it is incredible when I start getting phone calls from them in September saying,
Yeah.
okay, we're thinking about this for next season. And you know these things, and now it's getting to the point where it's, you know, can we have it delivered by October, November, because we need to build that into this, or we need to experiment, or whatever it might be. Um, I actually, one of the reasons why we thought about doing this series and of interviews is because we feel like so many people don't understand what goes into putting together these productions. Not just at Stratford, but Stratford's is a good example, um, being so close to here. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it takes so much to put together these shows and put
Yeah.
together a
I mean,
season like that.
it would be opening week, and I'd already be having conversations about the following season, the design of the following season
Right,
already back then,
right,
so that we could start building. And I mean, that's really particular to the festival stage because its season is so long.
right.
The shows are so big. But yeah,
Yeah,
it what happens when you do rep theater is your brain gets expanded in an extraordinary way,
hmm,
and uh, it's so your brain is so elastic.
hmm.
It's amazing that it can happen. But when I first got there, I thought I was going to explode because I was at the Patterson, and I got there just in time. I wasn't part of the build, so I went straight from the opening of the last show at the Grand to the first on stages for three different shows
Right,
in the Patterson. And other than Wolfville, I didn't really have much rep experience.
right,
And so every time I wanted to do something to a set, do the notes, it would be they'd be taking it off stage and
right,
the next one
right.
would be coming on. And I wouldn't be able to figure out how to get those notes done.
Yeah,
And as I spent time there, you start figuring it out. And that's where I think my understanding of time came from,
hmm.
because I was able to go between this moment and this moment, we're actually going to fix that door, you
Right,
know,
right,
and everybody would go, "Yep, that's what we're going to do."
right,
And so it 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 is an expanding kind of experience working in rep
right.
like no other. It's also deeply exhilarating, right? To watch the stage go whoop and then whoop.
Yep. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've had the opportunity to sit in the house and watch the transitions happen, and it's awesome. It's really cool. In fact, so great that I think that Stratford actually sells tickets to that now,
They do
so
now.
that
I
you can,
know, it's very smart. I've been thinking about it.
yeah,
Um, yeah, because it is fascinating. And as a TD, you're a huge part of making that changeover
yeah,
make sense and work.
yeah,
Um, and the conversations around it are so wonderful,
right,
because the festival stage, it was not made for big shows. It was not made for big sets. It was made for chairs and tables and some torches.
Yep.
And now it's those big musicals. And when I was there, we had one tractor trailer, a trailer that we would store things in. And I was looking at the season that I was looking at, and I said, we need another trailer. And everybody went, there's no way they're going to let you have another trailer. There's no way. Well, I went straight upstairs because that's the only way to actually get a decision and say, this is what we need to be able to do these shows the way they're designed.
Yeah.
And so I was the one who got the second trailer. And now they have 3.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a few there now, for sure.
I know, but it was a big deal when I got the second one.
Yeah. No, that's great.
But yeah, a lot of fun.
So you were there for, did you say 5 years?
I did 5 seasons, which translates to 4 years.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
When you go from a winter season to a summer season, it seems like you get an extra year in your life.
Right. Or so lose an extra year in your life.
Well, certainly you lose. If I lost hair, I would lose hair, but I just went gray, I think. And then I went back to the Grand to become their production manager.
Right.
And really, it was a perfect time. It was a perfect time because my interests were changing. Mm-hmm. My interests were more about the people who work in theater mm-hmm. and the relationships and the collaboration that it takes. And Stratford is a wonderful place, but collaboration is really, really hard to do there.
Right.
And so it was very exhausting for me since that was my most important thing that I felt about theater really is collaboration.
Yeah.
And so when I went to the Grand, Deb Harvey let me start doing apprenticeships.
If you didn't go there, I was going to go there. I was going to ask you. Yeah. So yes, you went back to the Grand and you had a great team there of people that you were working with, right? So at what point in time did you introduce the apprenticeship program?
Almost immediately.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep, because I got there and I really wanted to hire a TD. But I was being hired as a production manager / technical director.
Okay. Yep.
And it wasn't as if that wasn't something that I could do, but I knew that I should be thinking about a TD.
Right.
And you know what? I looked across the country and I realized that we weren't training our TDs, that we didn't have TDs. And that it's demographic. I made the joke of we were in the way all the time, I think, this afternoon with you, that I'm part of the baby boom bubble. I'm the last bit, but we're still in the way of other people. And so I think we ended up with a real demographic gap of skills, especially in management and especially for larger venues. And so I just didn't see anybody, and I decided that I was going to train up my own. And so I did a little pilot project that very first year for 10 weeks. 10 weeks, 12 weeks, something like that. And I thought, this is what I want to do. The following season, I applied to Metcalf Foundation for support for a full apprentice technical director.
Okay.
And they approved it. In fact, they supported an apprentice technical director for 10 years while I was there.
Wow.
Every single year. And those apprentices that I had at the Grand, it was a perfect place for an apprenticeship. Perfect, just the right size, with enough challenges but with enough support too. It was just kind of excellent. Anyway, those 10 years, like when I look back at those apprentice technical directors, they're leaders across the country.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
Yep.
And I didn't do it on purpose, but I did end up having a lot of women. But I didn't do that on purpose. It was just happened that I think women think they need apprenticeship more than men do in technical direction. And so, yeah, I helped some pretty phenomenal technical directors. I mean, they're out there. Some of them are still technical directors. Some of them are doing other things, but they're all pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've met a good number of them, and they are pretty awesome.
I know, right?
So, and if I understand it correctly, like maybe I don't know about the first couple of years, but after a while, it got to that point where you were getting quite a few people wanting in, right? Like it was kind of, the Grants Apprenticeship Program was a worthwhile thing to get involved with.
Yeah. I mean, even that first year, I got a lot of applications because there's not that much apprenticeship across the country, especially for TDs, right? But there's not a lot out there, especially in a large theater as well, right?
Right. Yeah.
So even like my very first one full time was Alexis Bouzette.
Oh, okay.
Who, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now she's not in theater right now, though I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up back in it. But she was at YPT for a good long time, and up at Blythe is where she started out. So yeah, she made her mark. But I think at a certain point, I started looking at the rest of the theater and started building apprenticeships in the other departments.
Right.
So, and the beauty of Deb Harvey, who is the ED there, is, and part of it was very selfish. She knew that the way to keep me was to keep letting me do the apprenticeship. But also, she just understood the importance of it, the importance of training and of giving to the next generation. And so we had apprentices in wardrobe, props, technical direction, and do we have anything else? I think those were probably the mainstays, and I know that they still do them. They maybe not the apprentice TD so much. That kind of stopped as their seasons grew larger, I think, and also as it takes an enormous amount of energy to actually mentor.
Right.
And so when I left, it slowly petered out. But it's still an important part of who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about the high school project there.
Oh my God.
Do you want to go there? Do you want to talk about the high school project?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, let's talk about the high school project.
Talk about the high school project because that came from my first time around at the Grand. It came out of that first year because the teachers went on strike.
Right.
They went on work to rule.
Okay.
And London actually has a lot of arts, a lot of high schools that are interested in the arts, interested in theater. So those teachers came, Michael Shimada was the artistic director at the time, came to him and said, can you do something so that our kids have something to do?
Right.
Because we can't do anything extracurricular, and they're so talented. And it was a group of them. It was a number of high schools. It wasn't just one.
Right.
And so he came to me and he said, can we do this? And I said, well, I wouldn't be interested in doing it unless we do it in production as well. And he was like, oh, how are we going to do that? And I said, I don't know. We just say we're going to do it, right? And so we decided to go for it. And that very first year, we did West Side Story.
Okay.
Yes.
Not Pinocchio.
No, I did get to do Pinocchio when I was at YPT, though.
Oh, okay.
How happy it made me. It was so lovely.
Okay, sorry. I don't mean to.
That's okay.
Head us off in a different direction, but
that's okay. So we did West Side Story. We decided that we would have exactly the same number of students on stage as in the departments, which was madness, really.
Mm-hmm.
Because Michael said, okay, we're going to go for 35 on stage. I was like,
Oh my
35.
goodness. Wow.
So we interviewed, so many students that first year. It was crazy. And we had 35 students in each of the, like all over the departments as well. And they, it was, um, it was a spring project, which means that we started in February. We were on top of all of our professional shows.
Yes.
So during the day, we would work on the professional shows, and then the kids would come after their school
Right.
was done, and we would do the high school project. And
Right.
so we were rehearsing and building in wardrobe and props, and we even had them in sets. I have actually no idea how I managed that. We had someone on lighting, just following, shadowing, really.
Right.
And stage management, everything,
Right.
everything. And it was like a really, really hard project, but it was so fulfilling that we decided that we should do it again. So the following year we did Midsummer Night's Dream. You know, once you do a musical, you can't go to anything else.
Right.
But we did.
Right.
And in terms of the artistic quality, it was great. In terms of the audience numbers, not so much.
Right.
Because it's kids doing Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't compute for people.
Sure.
It was unfortunate because they did a great job. It was beautiful. And then we changed artistic directors. And he thought that the high school project was important too. And so we did Guys and Dolls. And that was my last show there before I went to Stratford.
And were you still doing it in the spring then at that point?
It was still in the spring.
Okay.
And they did it in the spring while I was away.
Right.
They did. I guess I missed, strangely, I only missed 3, I think.
Okay.
In doing 5 seasons, I'd missed 3 high school projects.
Sure.
And when I came back, the first thing I said, I was a different person when I came back, because I came back with this expanded brain.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And also.
And you were a little tougher. Your skin was a little
way
thicker.
way tougher, and also more confident.
Sure.
Because I had a $3 million budget in Stratford.
Right.
And that only included sets, scenic arts, and crew labor, lighting, and sound. Not props, not wardrobe, not design, nothing.
Right.
That was it. That was $3 million. And I get to the grand and I have $900,000. And that includes everybody from the designer down through.
Right.
Right. Everybody.
Right.
So suddenly this expanded brain is dealing with a scale that is much different and much more manageable.
Yep.
Plus, at the Grand, they do shows. They do a show, and then they do another show.
Right.
And then they do another show.
Yep.
None of this crazy nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the first thing I said when I got there was, we have to move the high school project. The high school project must move to the summer fall, so that we can do it properly, and it doesn't, butt into what our core business is, which is the theater. And so Susan Furley was the artistic director by then, and she went, okay, but we still have to do the spring one. And so, you have to be careful what you wish for.
So you got 2.
In 1 year, we did 2 high school projects.
Right.
And I had a brand new head of props who I had hired when I got there. And I said, guess what you're doing? So we did 2 high school projects in a row that year.
Right.
And then it got onto the role of the summer,
Sure.
which is exactly where it belongs.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, because you can spend way more. It's almost like professional time if you can actually work Monday to, I think they work Monday to Saturday, and do full days
Yeah.
in the rehearsal and in the shops. Like
Yeah.
that's it's a gift, really.
Absolutely. It is a great opportunity for students here in London. It is fantastic.
It is an amazing project. I wish I could see it done everywhere, but it takes enormous courage to do it, and it actually is really, really expensive.
I would
Like
imagine, yeah.
it's not a moneymaker, right?
Yeah.
It's the value of it is more in the heart and in the fact that people believe in training young people.
Yep.
And so, I mean, you can't put a number on the value of that,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a huge, huge value. And it's great for the theater in how fulfilling it is, right? Yeah.
So you kind of sort of touched on this, but something that I'm thinking through in the back of my head. At what point in time, like how do you navigate? Well, I'm a carpenter, or I'm a head of sound at another theater, and I come to the Grand, and all of a sudden now I'm expected to spend a month or so with kids, and I've got to try to mentor these people, and that's not my job. How do you how do you navigate that, right?
Well, I think I guess like anything, a theater has a mandate. And when Susan Furley took over, they made the decision to make the high school project part of their mandate,
Right.
that it was an important part. And so as soon as you have a mandate, then when you hire people, then you have the right to have them understand what the mandate is.
Sure.
And understand what it is that's going to be important.
Right.
And help them, right? You have to help them. Yep. And train them.
Yep.
You're right. Mentoring, period, is not something that comes naturally. You have to learn it. Working with young people, also lots of things. I mean, now more complicated than ever.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
So I think that it has to come from the top, and the belief in it has to be delivered to everybody, and everybody needs. I mean, I sound like you have to drink the Kool-Aid, but I don't mean that so much.
No.
You do have to understand that if you decide to work in this particular organization, that probably you will need to do this as well.
Right.
But management has to understand too when it's not possible, right? When there are people who don't want to work that way or can't, then you have to understand that and then figure that out.
Right.
That's harder in a unionized situation, but it's still possible.
Right.
To say, you know what, you don't have to do the high school project. Someone else can come in and you can not do it.
Right.
But I did see crusty, hardened guys fall in love with that project.
Yeah.
And become really good at supporting and giving a great experience.
I think that it's hard to overstate. It's hard to overstate the impact that the Grand has on the community in London. And it's not just, the pocket of theater goers, right? The Grand in London has had the ability to have an impact on the community because of things like this, right? And I think they continue to do that today. I think that they continue to do that, but it's obviously something that they didn't just wake up one day and say, we're going to start to have an impact on this city. The Grand has been a cornerstone of the arts but the community of London for a long time.
Yep. I agree. And they should be commended. I mean, a lot of that sits in Deb Harvey
Yep,
as the leader.
absolutely.
Um, and then all the various artistic directors, they bring different things with them and,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
change things.
Yep.
But she's been kind of the constant for
Yep.
a very long time, and has and I take, I mean, everything that I know about management, I've taken from her. One of the things she's always said is that everybody, everybody who works there should be given the best possible tools and place to work to be able to achieve their best work
Right.
within the limitations,
Yep.
obviously,
Yep.
of the theater. And I never saw that that wasn't the case
Hmm.
ever, and I take that really seriously in my next steps, right? So,
Yep.
yeah, I think that they should be very proud of where they're at.
Well, I think it's really cool. Like, we've talked a lot about Stratford, obviously, but Stratford, again, has had such an impact on that town. I mean, the town really wouldn't be in the same way, the town, if it wasn't for the theater. But those are just two examples of a number of theaters and a number of relationships with cities or towns across the country. I think of, Blythe, not that far from here, right? I mean, yes, Blythe is known within the theater community for sure, but you can't talk about Blythe without talking about the theater, right?
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
such a part of of who they are there, and main tourist attraction sort of a thing, right? So it's neat when theater can have that impact on a community.
yeah. And I mean, it's harder because London is so urban
Sure,
uh, for for a theater to have as much impact, in scale
yep,
that Blythe does,
of course,
or Stratford
yep,
in a different way.
yes,
But I think it's it's got a quiet impact on the community, and because of where we are right now in our world,
mm-hmm.
that community will find out what it's like not to have them there
Sure, absolutely,
for a while. And I think that will probably be a big learning moment for the city.
mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's a good thing, right? Um, I think that it's easy to take things for granted when they're there for
um,
so long. And
absolutely,
that theater, they've been there a really long time,
yep,
right?
yep,
So, I mean, Stratford, it's a no-brainer. No Stratford, no tourism, no lots of things,
yep,
right? But in a city, it'll be a different impact.
for sure.
It'll be interesting to see how that happens. I know we probably won't talk a lot about what's going on right now, but it's all the theaters are talking
No,
about.
absolutely, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So you were at the Grand for a good number of years. You had
I was there
a
11
yeah,
years
that's like
the
that's
second time around.
mm-hmm.
So 3 and 11. I've never been anywhere that long. That was crazy. That was crazy. And the only reason I just kept staying is because I would interview a new apprentice, and then I'd go, well, I'm gonna stay for the apprentice, right?
Yeah. Well, you had your hand in some pretty good art there along the way too, I think.
I did. I had a good time.
So
Yeah.
so then some things changed in your life, and you picked up from the urban environment in London, Ontario, and
Mhm.
then what? Where on earth are you now?
Oh, so here I am in Prince Edward Island.
Yes.
I live in Harrington, which really isn't anything. It's got a sign,
Yes.
but that's pretty much it. There's no,
I've seen the sign. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's in the Harrington font. Um, and not anymore. They changed it, but that always made me laugh when I saw it.
That is funny.
And the reason that we came here is because my husband's was an islander,
Mm-hmm.
and we wanted to come and spend time with his mom.
Right.
So it was family reasons.
Yeah.
And I thought that I was done theater. I, I went, oh, I'm just going to do whatever I want, whatever that is. Who knows what will come at me? So we started making our plans, and then um, Ivan Habel told Duncan McIntosh, who was the artistic director of a little theater called Watermark Theater in North Rustico, that I was coming to the island.
Right.
And this being such a small world, Duncan and I are peers. We never worked together, but we knew of each other.
Mm-hmm.
He was out of a lot of places that I had been or was, or, you know, and so he basically invited me to be the general manager. And I said, I'm no general manager. I've never wanted to be a general manager. I've watched Deb Harvey in action, and I thought, well, I'm watching the best. Don't have to try and do that. And then I guess I took a look at what theater was all about. It was very small. I thought, maybe that scale is possible. And I said, I'll do it, but I have to be your production manager too, because at least I'd be doing something that I knew.
Yep.
Which actually meant being TD as well. But so I took it on.
Right.
And I'm in, I would have been going into my 5th season there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you talked earlier on about the scale of Stratford, going to the scale of the Grand.
And you know, the trajectory of my career.
Well, I don't mean it like that. No, that's not what I meant. But you are definitely needing to scale things as you think about it. How many seats do you have there at Watermark?
106.
106 seats. Yep.
Yeah, I know.
And it is a very cute little theater.
It's a beautiful little theater.
Yep, it is.
It's a sweet little theater. And my first year, I had to kind of channel my theater student that still lives inside me because I was doing the running up and down the ladders. I was doing the changeovers. I was doing a lot of stuff that I had not touched in many years.
Yeah.
And crazy as that was, it was also kind of cool.
Yeah.
And yes, I know I have colleagues across the country going, yeah, TD at the Festival Theater in Stratford. Right.
Well, I think it's great.
It's the same thing, really. Like, it's what I'm doing now is not terribly different. The scale, of course,
sure,
is, but when you change the scale, you also change the amount of support you have.
Right.
And sometimes the creativity has to go up because the resources are less, you know. So I'm not embarrassed by it, though it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
It totally makes me laugh because you feel like you're at the pinnacle, what they call the pinnacle.
Yeah.
But it's a little thrust stage. It's cute. It's got great acoustics.
Yep.
And I have had a huge impact on this little theater because I came with it all of my standards, which are ridiculous, right?
Well, and you know, so as you know, after you had been there for a season or two, I guess, 2 seasons, I came to visit you, and I talked to some of the actors that were working in your season, and I talked to some of the people that, like Pat, right, and different people who you're working with. And you could see these are the same people that Andrea works with, meaning she's having an impact on people the same way as she did in this other theater, and this other theater, and this, right? And that's the part where it doesn't matter if you're in the big theater or the little theater or the whatever theater or the curling rink, right? You're having that impact on people, and you're creating interesting art, and that's awesome. It's very cool.
It's this is what I would wish for anybody, is the opportunity to affect change a lot later in your career, having all the knowledge and all the experience. Like there is something, I still question myself. I still have doubt. I still have all of those things. But there's something about being at this point in my career where I also know, no, that actually works.
Right.
The schedule actually works,
Right.
and we achieve what we want to achieve because I know how much time it's going to take.
Right.
Because I understand time, but I also understand people's skill sets,
Right.
and I know how to use them. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to use all of that experience and then and make something better, and something that was small. It's like a little jewel. And so I'm burnishing that jewel. I'm giving it process. It had zero process when I got there. Oh my God. I've given it design because people who I work with, who I love to work with, want to come and play with me in Prince Edward Island.
Yep.
So I have the luxury of having a Bill Layton with over 40 years of experience who knows how to tell a story through design. And Renee, you know, an amazing lighting designer,
Yes.
coming and playing with our instruments that are from, World War I.
Yep.
And the only reason they want to do it is because of relationships, right? And so they bring their enormous experience to this little place. They make it look easy, and they make it beautiful.
Yeah.
And the audience is aware of it, in as much as an audience can be aware of that stuff, but they are aware that something very cool is happening on that stage now. And it's because of relationships. It's because of experience,
Well, there doesn't seem to be a lot of people in this industry who go to work every day and hate their job. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot, like if you're going to be in this industry, if you're going to stick it out, if you're going to, do season after season after season, when somebody's telling you need to do rep in a curling rink, that kind of thing, you have to have some level of passion for it. So to be able to have, some of your colleagues, some of your friends to come out to the island and have the opportunity to play, right? And to do something where there isn't a lot of pressure. It's a matter of do some art and enjoy theater and, do what you're good at, as opposed to, some of the big shows that those people work on, right? And they do amazing stuff. But it's very cool to be able to do that. It's very cool for people to have that opportunity.
Yeah, they're doing it for my seafood chowder, really.
Is that what it is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because they're not doing it for the money, I can tell you that.
Well, that's theater, I guess.
Yeah, it is. But it is very cool. And because I'm being a general manager, and I'm starting to get kind of good at it now, but it's taken a while because it's a completely different world. I used to just spend the money. I could have cared less how many people were sitting in that audience, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Deb must have just shaken her head whenever she talked to me, because I'm like, oh, there were only 100 people. Oh well, whatever,
Yep.
Still gonna build the sets.
Yep.
But when I got here, I started channeling. I used to have to be at all the senior management meetings. So 11 years of senior management meetings, right?
Yep.
And I'd be sitting in there with the head of box office and marketing and development and Deb and Susan and Tim Whitty and all those people who were running everything that wasn't my stuff.
Yes.
Well, I thought my stuff was the most important. And so I often felt like I wasn't listening at this table. I guess I was, but I was really thinking about, what's our next step on stage? What do we have to do? Who's going to do what? Blah, blah. Well, I got here and I could almost hear their voices. It almost was like a madness. I would hear their voices in my head. And I could hear Tim going, I think you're going to have to change everything to LEDs out in the lobby. And then, when we would be running out of toilet paper, I'd be hearing Tim Whitty going, yeah, I don't know. I'm always buying toilet paper. I mean, I started hearing them. And I wanted to change our box office system because we were so little and we were dealing with Ticket Pro and I wanted smaller. And so then I could hear those conversations about box office between Cheryl and Deb, and like I could hear them in my brain and realized I had been hearing them all this time, and that they were really smart at what they did.
Yep.
And that I had to figure out all of those things that they all knew how to do.
Right.
And it was great. It was great.
That's cool.
So that's the other thing that I would wish upon anybody is getting to do something that is completely foreign to you. It not entirely foreign because I've been in theater forever.
Yeah.
So I understand that world, but to have to start doing those kinds of things and using my brain that way, it was great. It was frightening.
Yep.
And stressful, but also, yeah, good. It's good to use your brain a different way.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, Andrea, thank you very much for taking this time. I know you've got a lot of things going on, and you're trying to navigate a whole bunch of different things right now. But it is always, always, always awesome to talk to you. And
it's nice to talk to you too. It's fun.
I think it is super cool, and I'm not just saying this, but really like the impact that you have on people, and now across the country in different areas, it's very cool. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's Andrea. She's the Watermark General Manager. Andrea has had an important impact on many Canadian theaters, and so many young people as they've explored theater, many of them for the first time. I'm certain that we're going to have Andrea back in the future, and we'll talk about some of the shows that she's been involved with and some of the pieces of magic that still excite her today. Like they did so many years ago when she saw Pinocchio for the first time. If you'd like to find out more about Watermark Theatre in North Rustico, PEI, you can find them at watermarktheatre.com. You can find out more about ResourceStage Conversations at resourcestage.ca. ResourceStage Conversations is a production of Horizon Solutions. Horizon has the privilege to work with professional and amateur theaters and schools across Canada to provide technical solutions for live performance and, now more than ever, live streaming. You can find us at horizonsolutions.net. And if you've got any questions or suggestions of someone you think we should talk to, well, go ahead and send us an email, conversations@resourcestage.ca. I'm Carl Lukings. Thanks for joining us for ResourceStage Conversations.